If Mushi could have a dating profile, I'm sure it would say something like, likes to take long naps and short walks to the food bowl. But she's pretty active for her age. At 16, she travels up north, in the truck and onto the boat, then over to the island before coming back home all over again. But one of her favorite spots is right out on the front porch. Sometimes there's more wildlife to see here in the city than we come across when we go up to the cottage. St. Thomas is a railway town, and in the early days it was home to the Great Western Railway, the first railroad that reached from Windsor to Niagara Falls. And this was important because it was the shortest route for Americans traveling between the Midwest and the Atlantic seaboard, and this meant economic development and tourism for the town of St. Thomas. Queso Station, short for Canada Southern Station, was one of the finest in the country and comparative to its counterparts in Chicago and New York. At its peak, some 2,000 passengers per day passed through this early rail terminal. William Drake, originally from Orange County, New York, became a captain of the 2nd Regiment of the Norfolk Militia in the early 1800s. As many settlers in those days, he was granted a 200-acre plot of land at the time of his father-in-law's land petition of 1796. A land petition was a letter from a settler to the lieutenant governor requesting a grant of crown land. Imagine that. By 1805, William had moved to Woodhouse Township in Norfolk County, otherwise known as Port Dover. The Drakes, along with some of their neighbors and friends, would eventually become the nucleus of the early village of St. Thomas. During the War of 1812, the village of Port Dover, as well as the properties of William Drake, suffered significant losses, including the loss of his house and outbuildings, his personal belongings, barn, livestock, and farm implements. The village of Port Dover was all but decimated. In the early 1800s, St. Thomas did boast 2 cemeteries. The first was the Old English Church Cemetery, and the other was on Curtis Street. Sadly, William's youngest child died in 1825 and was buried in the Old English Church Cemetery. Shortly afterwards, William Drake and family settled on Lot 2 in Yarmouth Township. Then, in March of 1842, at the age of 80, William Drake passed away. The reading of his will stated his wishes emphatically. It is my will and desire that a certain part of the above piece of land now fenced off and used as a public burying ground be at all time and times hereafter reserved for that use and purpose forever. That was a portion of that Drake family farm along what is now Sunset Drive in St. Thomas. Thus began the St. Thomas Cemetery, originally not facing West Ave where the entrance currently is. Some of the monuments in this cemetery weigh in excess of 7 tons and raise to over 15 feet in height, an architectural fascination considering the lack of technology to raise such tributes to life. One interesting but sad fact about St. Thomas, Jumbo the circus elephant, said to be the world's biggest elephant at the time, died here on September 15, 1885, shortly after being hit by a locomotive. In 1985, a life-size commemorative statue was erected in his honor. The population of St. Thomas as of 2021 is approximately 42,000. As a smaller city and just a short drive from the much larger London, Ontario, St. Thomas boasts 25% cheaper when comparing real estate values. Anyway, St. Thomas is where Mushi and I ended up spending the next 6 years of our lives. After selling a property in St. Mary's rather abruptly, I needed someplace to go, and St. Thomas was cheaper. I never actually visited West Ave in St. Thomas until this week, my last week in the city. In fact, I didn't visit a lot of places in St. Thomas. I really wanted a remote property and St. Thomas was just a stepping stone to achieve that. But I do have an uncle who was raised on West Ave in St. Thomas, and maybe he'll see his childhood home and relive some great memories. For me, I'll need to soon get home so I can finish loading the moving truck and head out with Mushi. I'll be honest, I won't miss St. Thomas that much, but I'll miss some of the neighbors and people I met over the years. I'll miss that little ice cream trailer in the Home Hardware parking lot, but most of all, I'll miss my morning walks along the beach in Port Stanley. Well, guess this is it, huh? Ready to leave our home. All packed up. It's been our home for quite a while, hasn't it? 6 years. Lived through a pandemic here. Fixed the house up. I know you're gonna miss it. And this is your porch. Okay, in you go. Get your tail in there. Watch yours. Oh, you ready? Let's do this.
Maybe one chapter in our lives has ended, but this is just the beginning of the next adventure.